pan out.
That, the government hasn't been doing a very good job at using our taxpayer money, and that now we see that businesses are struggling, and in a time of recession we don't need higher taxes and to take away from businesses, and that'll eventually just have a lot of repercussions that we can't afford right now. And so I think instead of putting that burden upon the taxpayers and upon the people, the government should really tighten their belt and start looking at themselves and their own spending to see if they can change things.
But see, what happens with people who are getting defensive is we didn't have to lose those 200 jobs if we did it that way either. We would still have the same amount of money. We would have 200 people that we could pay for, that we could now apply to other things. Yep. It's not a loss to do these kind of things. You're not just giving it up. Right. You now have freed up this opportunity to go deal with things.
$8 million
$8 million. You've freed up $8 million, which doesn't sound like a ton, but it's $8 million that you can now use in a place where you do need it. Right. Maybe there's a classroom somewhere, maybe in Kalihi, maybe somewhere else on the state, maybe out here in Eva, that could really use $8 million. I'm sure, I'm absolutely positive that $8 million spent on the schools in Eva would be useful.
More creative.
Instead, we stopped it out of a fear that we would lose something. You weren't going to lose it, you were just going to use it properly.
Right. But Tom, I think the major point that you're trying to get at is that rather than cut those 200 jobs, which would save money, be more efficient for the state, have a more streamlined system so people who need help can get it quicker and faster, their main goal is to protect their workers.
Next we have the River of Denial Award. Who here is mad about Furlough Fridays? The Department of Education's budget rose more than 31% in just 2 years. And guess what? The DOE employs 1,036 people in central administration. Who thinks that's more important than our teachers in our classrooms?
The thing is that in our economy, it's not just a profit system, okay? Capitalism has been bashed for centuries, saying that, oh, it's just a profiteering system, but it's actually a profit and loss system. That those losses that get suffered in the economy are just as important as those gains, because it helps funnel resources to where they can be used most efficiently. But in the government, there is none of that. There's absolutely none of that. Every single government job is seen as sacrosanct. You can't touch it. To lose a job in the government sector is like this big sin that you can't do. But, oh, by the way, Marissa, if you couldn't make your bottom line and you had to lay off 3 people, well, tough. Too bad. Why is that thinking so pervasive? And I think it's wrong.
The time is now to re-look, to make it transparent so we all feel party to the discussions. Because when HSTA and the BOE and all did their thing and we couldn't be a party to it, you know, we all probably could have chimed in and offered some solutions, but we just felt disconnected.
Well, let me, you know, if you're going to bring up unions, I helped bring in a union.
The governor had the right idea when she said audit the DOE, and we really need to get in there.
In a former job, worked for Federal Protective Service, because it is necessary, and I understand that there's an enormous difference between a union and the people who are in the union. The other thing that you said that caught me, that just, I don't know, struck a nerve, was the word transparency. Why does it take a man who is a professional analyst, who digs for efficiency for a living, or a CIA analyst who learned to go examine other foreign governments looking for money, finding hidden money and corruption? Why does it take guys like us to look at the
to make a living?
Why are we required so that somebody can make some sense out of our budget? We need to have it out in the open. The reason we're here, and you don't see other people who are, I would say, in other jobs who weren't trained professionally to do that, is because they've made it so complicated and just flat out hidden it behind closed doors that it takes someone like us to see what happens.
It's that lack of transparency that is not keeping the people informed from the things that we see, because we do it on a daily basis for a living. You know, and it shouldn't have to take that type of level of education or background to know what the government is doing. It's each person's right. We all pay for government, and government is necessary. However, those people should not have to have master's degrees or military or government training to figure out and understand what's going on behind closed doors in the government. And I think you're spot on with that.
Right. And what the other part that frustrates me is it's not an accident. It's not an accident. You don't get to this point through good intentions. People are doing these things behind closed doors because they don't want to be seen
It's not a fortunate
doing
accident
these
for
things.
them.
Well, why don't
That's
they have
right.
sunshine law applied to the legislature
Well,
then?
this would be excellent, and that's something I
support that.
definitely would be behind that.
Yeah.
But there's a problem with that if you don't want to be seen voting against some of these things. It's like, wow, I
just raised my
assumed
hand,
not
I put my hand down.
Wow, wow, I really, yeah. So, and that's where the problem is, and that's actually something
Maybe
when
we
we're
should change
talking.
that maybe when we get there.
Yeah, that's so, that
Start
is.
doing what's wrong with that, eh?
It is something, and again,
I'm
you know,
going
it's the
for it.
same. It's the same
There's
with
no
the
problem.
audit. It's the same with the audit. And again, people talk about it like it's always negative. It's not. The other thing you do with audits is you find out what is working,
It's being
and you do
honest.
that elsewhere. You don't just
Exactly.
leave it stuck in a corner someplace. And we talk about the hurricane fund. The hurricane fund frustrates me to no end. I mean, in '93. We have a hurricane, we have infrastructure damage, 40,000 homes lost their insurance. You know what that means right now? We're talking about foreclosures. If you don't have insurance, the bank takes your home. People don't realize what kind of danger that their homes have been put in by having this money taken out of there. Because, well, we're assured that everything will be all right, that our insurance rates won't go up. But that's not actually what the insurance adjuster said. What the insurance adjuster said was, as long as we don't have a hurricane.
It's okay.
Do you think?
Really?
Do you think the insurance commissioner? It didn't make the news, but you know, he did resign, right?
Yeah, he's forced to
And I remember Rep. Thielen on the floor
Right.
saying, "This guy's writing a letter in black and white, big font, saying
Right.
this is not the way to go."
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to just read briefly from the insurance commissioner's letter to me. When a hurricane hits Hawaii, the HHRF is designed to activate, begin setting up operations to provide hurricane insurance to Hawaii property owners who have been unable to get insurance from a traditional insurer. Usually in the aftermath of a hurricane, traditional insurers pull back from the market. Homeowners who cannot find insurance are then in default on their mortgage, and foreclosures may ensure. The HHRF is designed to provide insurance to prevent the additional personal and economic disaster of numerous foreclosures when we are trying to cope with the environmental, economic, and personal catastrophe after a hurricane.
Well, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, that rate on the hurricane fund just solved, or not even, I shouldn't say solved, but ameliorated the problem just for this year.
Right. Kick the can, Tito.
Exactly.
Oh yeah,
And
if
what's going to happen
oh.
in FY11? You know, if revenues don't jump up, and I don't think the Office of Revenue is. I think they're calling for a very small increase. But if you look at the overall from 2007, we're still well below our revenue levels for the state. So in FY11, when these same budgetary issues come up again, it's going to still be
Yeah,
there.
our kids still won't be in school on Fridays.
That's right.
And if we have a hurricane, what are we looking at? Furlough weeks? Furlough months? What's going to happen if we have a hurricane?
Yeah.
And that would be fine, assuming we still have a house. Because if they drop our insurance, the banks are going to take our homes. And I mean, this is not a small thing. This is why he resigned. Because this is not okay. And they make it sound very quiet and very, you know, hey, it's all right. Your insurance rate's
Well,
going
Tom,
to go
let
up.
me-
Shh, as long as we don't have a hurricane.
Yeah,
Shh.
right.
Let me just add one other plug on this, and this is a problem of government that I see, is that a lot of these politicians who vote for these things, they don't look beyond stage one. You know, one of the things that we do is, you know, in my profession anyway, is that, you know, when you look at, you know, what causes this, what causes that, you know, there are things on different levels. There are secondary and tertiary effects that happen from making a certain decision. And it seems like those factors that people have to put into their thought process, gee, what's going to happen long-term effect?
Yeah.
You know, what type of risk are you now assuming because you've made this decision? It seems like we always want to go ahead and, you know, do what we, you know, sacrifice future, you know, whatever for what we can solve today, and that's not the right way to think about how we should run government.
Your children going to owe money before they have a chance to. What was you had a cliche?
We're indebting ourselves incredibly.
Right.
And I think, you know, 2010 is going to be a very important year because, you know, Hawaii right now is on a very slippery slope to moving towards a constant tax and spend form of government, where any increased revenue that comes in is going to be going to try to pay down debt or pay off labor and have no improvements whatsoever.
Yep.
And